Hello, this is Dave Sugarbaker, and this is the last Sunday in April, the 28th of April, 2024. And I have a brief reading before we get into the sermon of the day. This is from Proverbs. Proverbs got a lot of neat stuff in it. You got to think about it. With his mouth, the godless man would destroy his neighbor, but by knowledge, the righteous are delivered. After 27 years at Northbury Community Church in Berkeley and 3 earlier years as a graduate student in Berkeley, I learned some really valuable lessons. And I was able to share some of what I learned at a Berkeley YMCA Lenten breakfast I was invited to speak at a few months before leaving town. It was kind of like my swan song. I told my fellow Berkeley citizens that the knuckleheads at each extreme, that there were as many knuckleheads who were liberals as there were conservative knuckleheads, and that the knuckleheads at each end of the spectrum tended to look and sound a lot alike based on my own 30 years of experience with both. In my graduate student years in Berkeley in the late 60s, I lived approximately 1 block from what became known as People's Park. The University of California had over time bought up property in the south of campus neighborhood for its growing needs. And within blocks of my apartment, the university had put up high-rise dorms. They would have a city blocks or so, and they would put up 4, about 15-story high-rise dormitories. And then in the center of that quad would be a single central food service. And the university did that about 3 or 4 times in the South of campus area in Berkeley. The university had bought up several square blocks of aging 2-story apartment buildings and demolished them in preparation for some new project that they had in mind. But radical extremists in the area decided that it was time to protest this expansion. So the question was how to get all those bored undergraduates out on the street protesting. And so leaflets were circulated claiming that the land had been owned by an Indian tribe in the distant past, and that the university had somehow taken the land from the Indians. The Indian population of California had been decimated by white settlers about a century earlier, about 1840-something. And it wasn't something that the University of California had done, but the radicals claimed that the university had blood on its hands. And so the posters said, the leaflets said, come out and protest this land grab by the University of California. It was kind of a reach, but at least it was a first cause that the radicals put forward for a protest. The real, more cynical purpose was to create a situation in which students and police were facing off, and then the protest organizers simply had to wait for somebody to do something stupid. And given human nature, they wouldn't have to wait long. Either a student would throw something at a cop, or a cop would get frustrated and hit a protester. As far as the radicals were concerned, it didn't matter who started what. The point was, as soon as there was a spark, the situation would ignite. And now the protesters' rallying cry was, the authorities hit my roommate. Forget about the Indians. They're no longer in the picture at all. Out came the tear gas and the rocks to throw, everybody would overreact, and there would be no way to sort out who did what to whom first. And it would be a really good thing to see on the evening news, as far as the radicals were concerned. It would look like the whole country was going down the drain. At first, we watched from the roof of our apartment building, but then an Alameda County Sheriff's deputy shot and killed a student who was watching from a rooftop nearby. And after that, we looked out of closed windows, careful not to present too much of a target. The radicals sat back and enjoyed the power that they had to bring the university to a standstill. Their opposition, the conservatives, got to tisk-tisk at the misbehaving students who should pipe down and be grateful for their education. The two extremes, left and right, both benefited from the situation. It seems to me that the same sort of thing is happening these days at Columbia and on other campuses. Everyone is choosing up sides and demonizing their opponents. The universities are trying to keep everybody happy, and consequently, no one is happy. The confrontation is building, and I predict it won't be long before someone does something stupid. And then the situation will be out of control, and the organizers can sit back and enjoy having brought American universities to a halt. Their opponents can point to the chaos and say, see, this is what happens when you get too permissive. I have followed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for years, and there's enough blame to go around for everybody. Nobody is wearing white hats in this conflict. There are no heroes. Each side is selling a narrative that makes the other side the bad guys. Hamas committed a terrible attack on Israel, and Israel has bombed Gaza almost to rubble. But between the two sides, 2 million civilian Palestinians are caught in the middle. Hamas seems to be winning the propaganda battle for world opinion. American students are championing the Palestinians and demonizing the other team. As I said last week, difference is a fact of human life, and it's our choice if we turn difference into a problem. Demonizing those whose opinions differ from ours is the current style of American politics. To listen to the demonizing extremists on both sides, we have an electoral choice in November between communist baby killers on one side and Nazi insurrectionists who want to burn down our democracy. That's quite a choice. I had a thought about all this. What if we were to calm down and listen to each other? What if we were to work together to move toward a middle ground? What if we were to give each other credit for being neither stupid, nor wrong, nor crazy? How about speaking out of respect and a desire to work with instead of annihilate each other? What would happen if we started with the affirmation that these others, who we do not happen to agree with, are also children of God? Now, there would have to be ground rules. First of all, there would be no violence. And secondly, no demonizing or name-calling. That's a form of verbal violence. There'd be no talking without listening first. And we could agree to find the middle ground. The middle ground is there. It's just that nobody is willing to move toward the middle these days. But by the way, you know that compromise is not a weakness? It's a reasonable goal if differences are a fact and not a problem. Now, what did Jesus say about all this? This is from the Sermon on the Mount. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So, Jesus says, when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and sister, and then come and make your offering. What I hear this saying is that because, and if you're out of harmony with your brother or sister, you are also out of harmony with God. Your worship is useless until you restore your right relationship with your brother and sister. Then come back and you will find that your worship actually restores you to your right relationship with God. So on the one hand, you have your relationship with your brother or sister, and on the other hand, you have your relationship with God. If one is out of whack, both are all out of whack. As the old song says, you can't have one without the other. Now, God bless you. If you find value in this, I'd appreciate it if you'd pass it along, and hope to see you soon. Take care.